The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom, and 200 pairs of eyes turned toward Olivia Carter as Ryan Callahan's voice cut through the string quartet like a blade. "You will never be my wife. Never." "Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Linda's Stories. If Grace carried you here tonight, like this video, if faith still lights your path, comment, 'I'm with Linda.'" Now let's begin with a story about rejection, redemption, and the fierce love of a mother who refused to beg. Olivia stood frozen in her emerald silk gown, her dark skin glowing under the crystal chandeliers, her natural curls pinned elegantly at the nape of her neck. The February cold pressed against the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park South, but inside, the room felt suffocating. She had come to this Valentine's Day gala as Ryan's date, his hand warm on her lower back as they'd entered just 2 hours ago. She had believed, foolishly perhaps, that after 8 months together, their relationship meant something real. Ryan Callahan stood 6 feet away from her now, his tailored Tom Ford tuxedo immaculate, his jaw set in that stubborn line she'd once found attractive. At 34, he was Manhattan's most eligible bachelor, the CEO of Callahan Properties, a real estate empire his grandfather had built from nothing in the 1950s. His dark hair was swept back, his gray eyes cold as the winter night outside. Beside him, his mother, Catherine Callahan, smiled with practiced cruelty, her diamonds catching the light. "Ryan, darling, I think you've made your position quite clear," Catherine said, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. "Miss Carter is a lovely girl, but she simply doesn't fit into our world. You understand, dear, don't you?" Olivia's hands trembled. She pressed them against the cool silk of her dress, willing herself not to cry. Not here. Not in front of these people who'd never wanted her here in the first place. She was a project manager at a mid-sized tech firm in Brooklyn, the daughter of a postal worker and an elementary school teacher from Queens. She'd met Ryan at a charity auction for literacy programs, where she'd been volunteering. He'd pursued her relentlessly, showed up at her office with coffee, took her to intimate restaurants in the West Village, made love to her in his penthouse apartment overlooking the Hudson River, while promising her forever in whispered words against her skin. 3 weeks ago, they'd spent a weekend at his family's estate in the Hamptons. 3 weeks ago, she'd fallen asleep in his arms believing she'd found something rare and precious. 3 weeks ago, her life had changed in a way she didn't yet know about. "I don't understand," Olivia finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. "What changed? 2 days ago you were talking about us spending spring break in Paris." Ryan looked away, unable to meet her eyes. His mother's hand rested possessively on his arm. "My son has responsibilities, Miss Carter. His engagement to Amelia Hartwell will be announced in June. Their families have been aligned for years. Surely you didn't think a few months of companionship meant anything more than what it was." The room seemed to tilt. Olivia gripped the back of a nearby chair. "Engagement? You're engaged to someone else?" "It's business," Ryan said flatly, and finally looked at her. The warmth she'd seen in those gray eyes was gone, replaced by something hard and distant. "Amelia and I have an understanding. Our marriage will merge 2 of the most powerful real estate dynasties in New York. That's how our world works." "And I was what? Entertainment until you had to face reality?" Catherine laughed, a brittle sound. "You're being dramatic, dear. Wealthy men have always had their diversions. You should feel flattered Ryan chose you." Something snapped inside Olivia. She straightened to her full 5'9" height, met Ryan's gaze with a fury that made him take a step back. "You told me you loved me. You said I was different. You lied." "I never promised you anything," Ryan said, but his voice wavered slightly. "Yes, you did. Every time you held me, every time you made me believe I mattered." Olivia turned to address the watching crowd, many of them smirking behind champagne flutes, delighted by the drama. "I want everyone here to remember this night. Remember that Ryan Callahan is a coward who couldn't even be honest with a woman he was sleeping with. Remember that he chose duty over his own heart because he's too weak to stand up to his mother." She walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against marble, her head high despite the tears burning behind her eyes. Ryan called her name once, but she didn't turn back. The February wind hit her as she stepped outside, the doorman hailing a cab. She climbed in, gave her address in Prospect Heights, and let the city lights blur through her tears as they drove across the Brooklyn Bridge. Olivia spent the weekend in her small 1-bedroom apartment, a third-floor walk-up in a converted brownstone that she loved despite its creaky floors and temperamental radiator. Her best friend, Maya Torres, came over Saturday afternoon with Thai food and wine, ready to help her rage and cry and process. They'd been friends since college at NYU, where they'd both studied business, and Maya now worked as a financial analyst for a venture capital firm in Midtown. "He's a coward," Maya declared, pouring generous glasses of Pinot Noir. "And his mother is the actual devil. I never liked her." "You never met her," Olivia said, curled up on her worn leather couch under a thick blanket. "Didn't have to. I could tell from how Ryan changed whenever you mentioned her. He'd get this look, like a little boy afraid of getting in trouble." Maya handed her a glass. "You're better off without him, Liv. You deserve someone who's proud to be with you, not someone who hides you away." Olivia sipped her wine, then set it down suddenly as her stomach churned. "Oh God, I think I'm going to be sick." She made it to the bathroom just in time. Maya held her hair back as she vomited, then wet a washcloth with cool water and pressed it to Olivia's forehead. "That wine was not that bad," Maya joked, but her eyes were concerned. "When's the last time you ate?" "I don't know. Yesterday." Olivia sat back against the cool tile wall. "I've been feeling off all week. I thought it was just stress from a project deadline at work." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Liv, when was your last period?" The question hung in the air. Olivia's mind raced backward through the weeks. She'd been regular her entire adult life, tracking everything in an app on her phone. She fumbled for her phone now, opened the app with shaking hands, scrolled back through the calendar. The last log date was 7 weeks ago. "Oh my God," she whispered. "We need to get you a test," Maya said, already grabbing her coat. "Right now." 20 minutes later, Olivia sat on her bathroom floor. 3 positive pregnancy tests lined up on the sink counter above her. The pink lines were unmistakable, clear as the truth she'd been too frightened to see. She was pregnant with Ryan Callahan's baby. She was pregnant alone, with the child of a man who'd publicly humiliated her, who'd chosen a business arrangement over what they'd built together. Maya sat beside her, arms wrapped around Olivia's shaking shoulders. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," Olivia said honestly. "I never planned for this. We were always careful. I'm on the pill, but I was sick last month. That sinus infection, and the antibiotics must have..." She trailed off. The how didn't matter. The reality was sitting in her womb, growing, real. "You have options," Maya said gently. "Whatever you choose, I'm here. But you need to know that before you make any decisions." Olivia closed her eyes, pressed her hand against her still flat stomach. She thought about her own parents, about how her mother had worked double shifts at the post office while pregnant with her, how her father had taken night classes to become a supervisor so they could afford a house in Queens. They'd given her everything with so little. She thought about Ryan's face when he told her she'd never be his wife, about Catherine Callahan's cruel smile, about the way 200 people had watched her humiliation like it was entertainment. "I want to keep it," she said quietly. "I know that probably sounds crazy, but I want this baby." "Then we'll figure it out," Maya promised. "You and me, we'll figure it out together." The next morning, Sunday, Olivia called Ryan. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. She tried again in the evening. Same result. Monday morning, she called his office. His assistant, Jennifer, was apologetic but firm. "Mr. Callahan has requested no further contact from you, Miss Carter. I'm sorry." Olivia tried 3 more times over the next week. Each time, Jennifer's voice grew cooler, more scripted. Finally, on Friday, a legal envelope arrived at her apartment by courier. Inside was a letter from a law firm in Midtown informing her that if she continued to attempt contact with Mr. Callahan, she would be subject to a restraining order for harassment. She read the letter 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. Then she folded it carefully, placed it in a drawer, and made a decision. Ryan Callahan didn't want to hear from her? Fine. He would never know about this baby. She would raise her child alone, without his money, without his name, without giving him the opportunity to reject not just her, but their innocent child who deserved better than a father who saw them as an inconvenience. That weekend, Olivia told her parents, they sat in the living room of their modest house in Astoria, the same house she'd grown up in, with its worn carpets and family photos covering every wall. Her mother cried, but not from disappointment. "My grandbaby," she kept saying, holding Olivia tight. Her father was quiet for a long time, his jaw working, his hands clasped between his knees. "This man who hurt you," he finally said. "Does he know?" "No," Olivia said, "and he won't. He made his choice." Her father nodded slowly. "Then we make ours. You're our daughter. "This baby is our blood. We stand together." The months passed with brutal swiftness. Olivia kept working until she couldn't hide her growing belly under loose blazers anymore. Her boss, a woman named Patricia Chen, who'd built her own career fighting through Tech's boys club, was understanding but practical. "You can work from home starting at 6 months," she said, "but I need to know you're committed to coming back after maternity leave." "I am," Olivia promised and meant it. She'd need her job, her salary, her health insurance. She'd calculated every expense down to the dollar, sitting at her kitchen table with spreadsheets until 2 a.m., planning for diapers and daycare and formula, for the terrifying possibility of raising a child alone in one of the most expensive cities in the world. At her first ultrasound, the technician moved the wand slowly across her gel-covered belly, her face suddenly still. "Is something wrong?" Olivia asked, gripping Maya's hand. "Nothing's wrong," the technician said with a smile, "but I'm seeing 2 heartbeats. Congratulations, you're having twins." The world tilted. Twins, 2 babies, double the diapers, double the daycare costs, double the everything. Olivia started laughing, then crying, then laughing again. Maya squeezed her hand so hard it hurt. "Well," her best friend said, "we're going to need a bigger support system." That support system materialized in unexpected ways. Olivia's church community in Brooklyn rallied around her. Women she'd known for years organized a baby shower, filled her small apartment with donated cribs and car seats and clothes. Her father built a second crib in his garage, painted it white, delivered it on a rainy Saturday in August. Her mother started knitting tiny blankets, her hands always moving, creating warmth for grandbabies she couldn't wait to meet. Maya became Olivia's birth partner, taking classes with her, practicing breathing techniques, driving her to every doctor's appointment when her parents couldn't. They painted the second bedroom together, transforming it from Olivia's home office into a nursery with soft yellow walls and white clouds, hand-painted by Maya's boyfriend, Carlos, who turned out to have hidden artistic talents. Olivia never Googled Ryan Callahan. She never checked his social media, never looked for news about his engagement. She wanted to forget he existed, wanted to believe these babies growing inside her were hers alone. But sometimes, late at night, when she couldn't sleep because someone was kicking her ribs from the inside, she'd remember his hands on her body, his voice in her ear, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. She'd remember, and she'd grieve not for losing him, but for these babies who would never know their father. At 36 weeks, on an October morning when autumn leaves were just starting to turn in Prospect Park, Olivia's water broke while she was making coffee. Maya drove her to Methodist Hospital in Park Slope, held her hand through 12 hours of labor, cut the umbilical cords when the twins finally arrived at 11:47 p.m. and 11:51 p.m. 2 daughters, perfectly healthy, absolutely identical, with heads full of dark curls and tiny fists that waved furiously at being removed from their warm home. The nurses placed them on Olivia's chest, and she felt her heart crack open in a way she'd never imagined possible. Love, pure and fierce and protective, flooded through her. "Names?" the nurse asked gently. Olivia had thought about this for months. She'd made lists, crossed them out, started over. Now, looking at her daughters' faces, she knew. "Zara and Nora," she said. "Zara Rose and Nora Grace, after your grandmothers," Maya said, remembering. "After strong women," Olivia corrected. "After survivors." The next 18 months were the hardest and most beautiful of Olivia's life. She returned to work after 12 weeks, her heart breaking every morning when she dropped Zara and Nora at the daycare 2 blocks from her office. They were good babies, as good as twins could be, but they were still 2 infants who needed constant feeding, changing, attention. Olivia survived on 4 hours of sleep a night, coffee, and sheer determination. Her parents helped as much as they could, but they were still working themselves. Maya came over 3 nights a week, bringing dinner and extra hands. The church ladies organized a rotation, each one taking a shift to give Olivia a break. It took a village, and Olivia was learning to accept help, to swallow her pride, to admit she couldn't do everything alone. The twins grew fast. At 6 months, they were sitting up, grabbing everything, shoving it in their mouths with enthusiasm. At 9 months, they were crawling, getting into every cabinet Olivia forgot to baby-proof. At a year, they took their first wobbling steps on the same day, holding onto the coffee table, then each other, then launching themselves toward Olivia's waiting arms. They looked exactly like Ryan. That was the hard truth Olivia had to face every day. The same dark curls, the same gray eyes, the same stubborn set to their tiny jaws. Strangers would stop her on the street, coo over the beautiful girls, ask who they got their eyes from. Their father, Olivia would say shortly, and change the subject. She'd built a life without Ryan Callahan. She'd proved to herself that she could do this alone. But sometimes, watching her daughters sleep in their matching cribs, she felt the weight of what she was denying them. A father, his family, his resources. Was she being selfish, keeping them from him? Or was she protecting them from a man who'd made it clear she was never good enough for his world? The girls were 18 months old on a bright April Sunday when Olivia decided to take them to Central Park. It was one of those perfect spring days that made living in New York feel like a privilege instead of an endurance test. The temperature hovered around 70 degrees. Cherry blossoms were exploding in clouds of pink along the walking paths, and the park was full of families enjoying the sunshine. Olivia pushed the double stroller along the path near Bethesda Fountain. Zara and Nora wearing matching denim overalls and white t-shirts, their curls caught up in tiny puffs with pink bows. They were chattering to each other in their twin language, pointing at dogs and birds and other children with excitement. A street musician played guitar nearby, and tourists posed for photos at the fountain's edge. Olivia stopped to buy them ice cream from a vendor, even though they'd definitely make a mess. She was learning to care less about messes and more about moments. She handed each girl a small cup of vanilla, pulled out wipes for the inevitable disaster, and laughed as they immediately got ice cream on their noses, their cheeks, somehow in their eyebrows. "Let me get a picture," Maya said. She'd come along for moral support and adult conversation, pushing her own baby news. She was 3 months pregnant finally, after a year of trying. They'd celebrated with sparkling cider and dreams of raising their kids together. Olivia was wiping Nora's face, laughing at Zara's sticky hands, completely absorbed in her daughters when she felt it, that sensation of being watched. She looked up slowly and her breath caught in her throat. Ryan Callahan stood 20 feet away, frozen on the path like he'd been turned to stone. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater, expensive sunglasses pushed up on his head, a leather messenger bag over his shoulder. He looked older than she remembered, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 2 years ago, but still handsome in that careless way wealthy men often were. Their eyes met across the distance. Olivia watched realization move across his face as his gaze dropped to the stroller, to the 2 little girls with dark curls and gray eyes, to the way Zara tilted her head exactly the way he did when he was confused. The ice cream cup slipped from his hand, vanilla splattering across the pavement. He walked toward her slowly, like approaching a wild animal that might bolt. Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. Maya moved closer, protective, her hand on Olivia's shoulder. The twins, oblivious to the drama, continued attacking their ice cream with determination. Ryan stopped a few feet away. His face had gone pale, his hands shaking slightly. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse. "Olivia." "Ryan," she said coolly, proud that her voice didn't shake. His eyes kept moving back to the girls, drinking in every detail. "How old?" 18 months. She watched him do the math, saw the moment he understood. His face went even whiter. Are they mine?" Olivia felt Maya's hand tighten on her shoulder, steadying her. She looked at the man who'd told her she would never be his wife, who'd had his lawyer threaten her with a restraining order, who'd chosen a business arrangement over anything real. She looked at her daughters, who were healthy and loved and safe, who knew nothing but the fierce protection she'd wrapped around them since the moment she'd known they existed. "They were yours," Olivia said clearly. "Now they're only mine." Ryan stumbled back like she'd hit him. "What? No, you can't. I have a right to know my own children." "You had a right," Olivia corrected, her voice steady despite the fury building in her chest. "You had a right when I tried to call you 5 times and you sent your assistant to block me. You had a right when I received a letter threatening me with legal action if I didn't leave you alone. You gave up your rights when you made it clear I was nothing to you." "I didn't know you were pregnant," he said desperately. "You never told me." "I tried," Olivia said. "You refused to listen." Zara chose that moment to throw her empty ice cream cup on the ground and announce loudly, "More! More!" Nora echoed her sister. banging her own cup against the stroller tray. They had no idea who this strange man was. No recognition in their eyes when they glanced at him. No connection to the father they'd never met. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. Please, please, Olivia. They're my daughters. I deserve to know them. Deserve? Olivia's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. You deserve nothing. You told me I would never be your wife in front of 200 people. You made me feel small and worthless and disposable. Why would I ever let you near my children? Our children, he said, but it came out as a plea. Olivia stood, began packing up the stroller, wiping sticky hands with fierce efficiency. Maya moved to help, creating a physical barrier between Ryan and the twins. The girls sensed the tension, their chatter dying down, Nora reaching for Olivia with uncertain arms. If you try to contact me, I will get a restraining order, Olivia said coldly. If you try to take me to court, I have documentation of every attempt I made to inform you about the pregnancy and every way you blocked me. If you try to use your money and your lawyers to take my daughters from me, I will fight you with everything I have. She bent to buckle the girls into their stroller, her hands gentle despite her shaking. Stay away from us, Ryan. You made your choice 2 years ago. Live with it. She turned the stroller and walked away, Maya beside her, leaving Ryan standing alone in the middle of the path. Olivia didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked back, she might see the broken expression on his face and feel something she couldn't afford to feel. Pity, or worse, the dangerous flicker of hope that maybe somehow this could be different than it was. But she knew better now. She knew exactly who Ryan Callahan was, and her daughters deserved better than a father who'd only want them because he'd accidentally discovered they existed. Ryan stood frozen on the path for 20 minutes after Olivia disappeared into the crowd. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. His mind kept replaying the image of those 2 little girls with their dark curls and his eyes, their sticky faces and matching overalls, the way one of them had tilted her head exactly like he did when he was thinking. His daughters. He had daughters. Twin daughters he'd never known existed. He pulled out his phone with trembling fingers and called the one person who might understand. His college roommate, Marcus Webb, now a civil rights attorney in Harlem with 3 kids of his own. I need to see you, Ryan said when Marcus answered. Now, it's an emergency. They met an hour later at a coffee shop in the Upper West Side, far enough from Ryan's usual haunts that no one would recognize him. Marcus took one look at Ryan's face and ordered 2 double espressos. Talk, he said simply. Ryan told him everything. The gala 2 years ago, his mother's manipulation, the engagement to Amelia that had fallen apart 6 months later when she'd left him for a British duke, the emptiness he'd felt ever since. Then the encounter in Central Park, the twins, Olivia's cold rejection. I have daughters, Marcus, 2 of them, and she won't let me near them. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, stirring sugar into his espresso. Did you try to contact her when she was pregnant? I didn't know she was pregnant. That's not what I asked. Did you try to contact her after the gala? Ryan looked away. No. My mother had her lawyers send a letter, a cease and desist. I thought it was for the best. Clean break. So let me get this straight, Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. You publicly humiliated a woman you claim to love. You had your lawyers threaten her, and now you're surprised she doesn't want you anywhere near her kids. They're my kids too, Ryan protested. Biologically, yes. Legally, that's complicated. Morally, Marcus shook his head. Man, you gave up the moral high ground 2 years ago. She tried to tell you. You blocked her. You made your choice. I didn't know, Ryan said again. But the words felt hollow even to his own ears. Ignorance isn't innocence when it's deliberate, Marcus said. You want my legal advice? You could petition for a paternity test, establish parental rights, fight for custody or visitation. With your money and connections, you'd probably win something. But Ryan, listen to me carefully. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Ryan's espresso sat untouched, growing cold. Outside the window, families walked past. Parents pushing strollers, holding small hands, living the ordinary life he'd never imagined wanting until an hour ago. What am I supposed to do? Just let them go? Pretend I never saw them? I'm saying think about what's best for those little girls, not what makes you feel better about the mistakes you made. Marcus leaned forward. You want to be in their lives? You need to prove to their mother that you've changed, that you're worth the risk, that you won't hurt them the way you hurt her. How do I do that when she won't even talk to me? That's something you need to figure out yourself, Marcus said. But threatening her with lawyers isn't the answer. Neither is showing up at her house or her job. You need to respect her boundaries while showing her consistently and over time that you're serious about being a father. And man, that's going to take months, maybe years. Are you prepared for that? Ryan thought about his life, the penthouse apartment that echoed with emptiness, the succession of meaningless dates his mother kept arranging with appropriate women from appropriate families, the business deals that left him wealthy but hollow, the growing sense that he'd traded everything that mattered for a kingdom that felt more like a prison. I don't know, he admitted. I don't know if I'm prepared for any of this, but I can't just walk away, not from them. Then you need to start by understanding what Olivia's been through, Marcus said. Single mother, twins, in New York City. Do you have any idea how hard that is? How many nights she probably went without sleep? How many times she had to choose between paying rent and buying diapers? How scared she must have been, doing it all alone. Ryan felt sick. He'd been living in luxury while Olivia struggled. While his daughters grew and learned to walk and said their first words, he'd been making real estate deals and attending charity galas and feeling sorry for himself because Amelia had left him. I need to help her, financially at least. Child support. You can't just throw money at this and expect it to fix things, Marcus warned. But yes, you have a financial obligation to those children. Talk to a family law attorney, not a corporate lawyer, someone who actually understands what they're doing. Set up a trust fund. Arrange for child support payments through the court system so it's official and legal. Show Olivia you're serious about supporting your daughters, even if you can't be in their lives right now. Ryan left the coffee shop with a plan, or the beginning of one. He called his personal attorney, then fired him when the man suggested they could force the issue through aggressive legal action. He found a family law attorney through Marcus's recommendation, a woman named Sarah Chen, who specialized in complex custody cases and had a reputation for fairness over fireworks. Sarah met with him 2 days later in her office in Tribeca. She was in her 50s, elegant and no nonsense, with a wall of family photos behind her desk. "Tell me everything," she said, "and I mean everything. Don't leave out the parts that make you look bad," Ryan told her. The whole story, unvarnished and ugly. Sarah listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When he finished, she set down her pen and looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Mr. Callahan, I'm going to be direct with you. You don't have a great case for immediate custody or visitation. You have no established relationship with these children. You were demonstrably unavailable when Miss Carter tried to inform you of the pregnancy. And from what you've told me, you caused her significant emotional distress. So I have no rights? I didn't say that. You have parental rights, but exercising them in a way that's actually good for your daughters is going to require patience and strategy. We need to establish paternity first, which means a court-ordered DNA test. Miss Carter will likely fight that, but it's necessary. Then we set up child support through official channels. Then, and only then, do we begin discussing visitation. How long will all this take? Months, Sarah said. Maybe a year, maybe longer. These things don't move fast, and in my opinion, they shouldn't. Your daughters are 18 months old. They don't know you. Forcing yourself into their lives suddenly could be traumatic for them. We need to do this slowly, carefully, with their best interests at the center. Ryan felt frustration building in his chest, but he forced it down. Marcus was right. Sarah was right. This wasn't about what he wanted. It was about what Zara and Nora needed. "Okay," he said. "Tell me what to do." The legal paperwork was filed within a week. Ryan knew the moment Olivia received the petition for paternity testing because his phone exploded with a text message that simply said, "I will fight you with everything I have." He didn't respond. Sarah had been clear. No direct contact. Everything through the lawyers. But Ryan couldn't stop thinking about them. He found himself walking through Central Park at odd hours, hoping to catch another glimpse. He never did. He drove through Brooklyn sometimes, past the address he'd found in the court documents, a brownstone in Prospect Heights. He never stopped, never got out of the car. He just needed to know where they were, that they existed, that he hadn't imagined the whole encounter. His mother noticed the change in him immediately. "You've been distracted," Catherine said over dinner at her Fifth Avenue apartment 3 weeks after the park encounter. "Is it a woman? Please tell me you're finally moving on from that unfortunate Amelia situation." Ryan set down his fork carefully. "I saw Olivia Carter." Catherine's expression froze. "That girl from the gala? I thought we dealt with that." "You dealt with it," Ryan said, his voice cold. "You manipulated me into humiliating someone I cared about, and then you made sure she couldn't contact me. Did you know she tried to call me? Multiple times? She was obviously after your money, Ryan. I protected you. She was pregnant," Ryan said, watching his mother's face. "With my children. twin daughters. They're 18 months old now, and I've never met them because of what you did." Catherine's wine glass slipped, red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. "That's impossible." She would have said something. She would have demanded money. "She tried to tell me. Your lawyers threatened her with a restraining order." Ryan stood, throwing his napkin on the table. "I have 2 daughters, Mother, and they have no idea who I am because you decided that woman wasn't good enough for our family." "Ryan, sit down. We can handle this. We'll offer her money, a settlement. She'll take it and disappear. These situations are more common than you think." "These situations?" Ryan's voice rose. "You mean my children? My daughters? They're not a situation to be handled. They're human beings, and I've already missed 18 months of their lives because I was too weak to stand up to you." He left without looking back, his mother calling after him. He drove aimlessly through Manhattan, eventually finding himself parked outside the brownstone in Brooklyn again. It was late, after 10, but lights glowed in a third-floor window. He sat in his car, staring up, imagining Olivia inside putting the twins to bed, reading them stories, singing lullabies, all the small moments he'd missed and could never get back. His phone rang. "Marcus, Sarah called me. She said the paternity petition is filed. How are you holding up?" "I don't know what I'm doing," Ryan admitted. "I'm sitting outside her apartment like a stalker. I can't stop thinking about them." "Then get out of there before someone calls the cops," Marcus said firmly. "Go home. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we're going to start working on the person you need to become before you can be in those girls' lives." "What do you mean?" "I mean you need therapy, brother. You need to deal with your mother's control over you. You need to understand why you made the choices you made. You need to become someone Olivia might actually trust around her children. Because right now, you're the guy who told her she'd never be good enough. That's who she sees when she looks at you. You need to become someone different." Ryan went home. He didn't sleep. Instead, he sat in his penthouse overlooking the Hudson River and thought about the man he'd been 2 years ago. Arrogant, entitled, so afraid of disappointing his mother that he'd destroyed something precious rather than fight for it. He'd been weak, and Olivia and his daughters had paid the price for his weakness. The court-ordered paternity test happened in a neutral medical facility in Manhattan 6 weeks later. Olivia arrived with her lawyer, a fierce woman named Gloria Martinez, who specialized in defending single mothers in custody cases. Ryan came with Sarah. They didn't speak to each other, sitting on opposite sides of the waiting room while a lab technician collected DNA samples. Ryan caught glimpses of Olivia when he couldn't help himself. She wore a simple navy dress and had her hair pulled back in a professional bun. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, her hands gripping her purse like it was a lifeline. He wanted to tell her he was sorry, that he'd been wrong, that he would do anything to make this right. But the lawyers had been clear. No communication. The results came back 3 weeks later, confirming with 99.9% certainty what they already knew. Ryan Callahan was the biological father of Zara Rose Carter and Nora Grace Carter. The court ordered him to pay child support, a substantial amount that Sarah had calculated based on his income. Ryan had wanted to give more, but Sarah explained that offering excessive amounts could look like he was trying to buy access. "Everything has to be by the book," she'd said. "No shortcuts, no special treatment, no using your wealth to force the issue. We do this right or we don't do it at all." Summer arrived, hot and sticky. Ryan started therapy 3 times a week with a psychologist named Dr. Patel, who specialized in family dynamics and childhood trauma. "Tell me about your relationship with your mother," Dr. Patel said in their first session. "She's demanding, controlling. She's always had a vision for my life and I've always followed it, even when it made you unhappy. I thought that was what being an adult meant, doing your duty. And where did that belief come from?" They spent months unpacking it. His father's death when Ryan was 12, leaving him as the man of the family. His mother's expectations, her subtle manipulations, the way she'd used guilt and duty and family legacy to control every aspect of his life. The realization that he'd never really made his own choices, that he'd been living a script written by someone else. "What do you want, Ryan?" Dr. Patel asked one day in September. "Not what your mother wants, not what society expects. What do you want?" Ryan thought about Olivia's face in Central Park, about the fury and pain in her eyes. He thought about 2 little girls he'd never met, who shared his DNA but not his life. He thought about the empty apartment he went home to every night, the business that felt increasingly meaningless, the life he'd built that looked perfect from the outside but felt hollow at its core. "I want to be a father," he said. I want to know my daughters. He paused, surprised by what came next. I want Olivia to forgive me. Not because I deserve it, I know I don't, but because I want a chance to prove I'm different than the man I was. Then you need to show her through actions, not words, Dr. Patel said. Consistent actions over time. That's the only way to rebuild trust after you've broken it so completely. Ryan's lawyer filed for supervised visitation in October. Olivia's lawyer fought it viciously, presenting evidence of Ryan's initial rejection, his threats through attorneys, his complete absence from the children's lives. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Moreno, who'd been on the family court bench for 20 years. She listened to both sides, reviewed all the evidence, and made a decision. Mr. Callahan, you have parental rights, Judge Moreno said. But these children don't know you. Forcing contact too quickly could be harmful. I'm ordering a graduated approach. You'll start with therapeutic visitation. Once a week, 1 hour, supervised by a child psychologist who will assess the children's comfort and adjustment. If that goes well for 3 months, we'll reassess. Miss Carter, I understand your concerns, but Mr. Callahan has a legal right to know his children. We're going to do this slowly and carefully, with the girl's well-being as the priority. Olivia stood abruptly, her face stricken. Gloria put a hand on her arm, whispered something. Olivia nodded stiffly and left the courtroom without looking at Ryan. He watched her go, his heart aching with everything he wanted to say and couldn't. The first supervised visitation was scheduled for a Saturday morning in November at a child psychology practice in downtown Brooklyn. Ryan arrived 30 minutes early, clutching a bag with carefully chosen toys. Not expensive things, Sarah had warned him. Simple, age-appropriate toys. He'd spent hours in a toy store in Soho, completely overwhelmed, finally asking a saleswoman with kind eyes to help him. The psychologist was a woman named Dr. Rebecca Torres. She explained the rules carefully. You'll be in a playroom with your daughters for 1 hour. I'll be present the entire time, observing. Don't force physical affection. Let them come to you if they're comfortable. Follow their lead. Your job is just to be present and safe. What if they don't want anything to do with me? Then you sit quietly and let them play. You're a stranger to them, Mr. Callahan. You need to accept that. Olivia arrived exactly on time, holding the hands of 2 little girls in matching purple jackets and jeans. Ryan's breath caught. They'd grown in the 7 months since he'd seen them in the park. Their curls were longer, pulled into puffy pigtails. They looked at him with curiosity but no recognition. These beautiful strangers who carried his DNA and none of his history. Zara, Nora, this is Ryan, Olivia said, her voice carefully neutral. You're going to play with him for a little while. Mama will be right outside. Mama, stay, Nora said immediately, gripping Olivia's hand tighter. I'll be right outside the door, Olivia repeated, kneeling to their level. Dr. Torres will be with you the whole time. You're safe. She met Ryan's eyes for the first time, and the look she gave him was pure warning. Hurt my daughters and I will destroy you. Then she straightened and walked out, leaving Ryan alone with 2 toddlers who regarded him with the solemn suspicion of people who knew a stranger when they saw one. The first session was brutal. The twins clung to each other, playing with the toys Ryan brought, but ignoring him completely. When he tried to join their game, they moved away. When he spoke, they didn't respond. He sat on the floor for an hour, watching his daughters exist in a space he couldn't enter, feeling the weight of every choice he'd made that had led to this moment. That was normal, Dr. Torres told him afterward. They don't know you. Trust takes time. Time. Everyone kept telling him it would take time, but Ryan was learning slowly and painfully that some things couldn't be rushed or bought or forced. Some things had to be earned. He came back the next Saturday, and the next, and the next. Week after week through November and December, sitting on a playroom floor with 2 little girls who slowly, incrementally, began to acknowledge his existence. By the 4th session, Zara brought him a toy car. By the 7th, Nora let him help build a block tower. By the 10th, they both climbed into his lap when Dr. Torres read them a story, their small bodies warm and trusting in a way that made Ryan's throat close with emotion. They're starting to bond with you, Dr. Torres told him in mid-January. But Mr. Callahan, I need you to understand something. These girls love their mother absolutely. She's their whole world. Any relationship you build with them has to support that bond, not threaten it. Can you do that? Yes, Ryan said without hesitation. I'm not trying to take them from her. I just want to be part of their lives. Have you told Olivia that? She won't speak to me. Maybe it's time to try again, Dr. Torres suggested. Not through lawyers, not through the court, just you, being honest about what you want and what you're willing to do to get there. Ryan thought about it for days. Finally, he sat down at his desk overlooking the Manhattan skyline and wrote a letter, not an email, an actual handwritten letter on good paper, the kind his grandfather had taught him to write before the old man died. He wrote it and rewrote it a dozen times, trying to find words that were honest without being manipulative, apologetic without making excuses, hopeful without demanding anything. Dear Olivia, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to ask for your attention after everything I've done, but I'm asking anyway because I need you to understand something. I was wrong about everything. I was wrong to listen to my mother instead of my heart, wrong to prioritize duty over love, wrong to humiliate you in front of all those people, wrong to block your calls and have my lawyers threaten you, wrong to miss the first 18 months of our daughters' lives because I was too much of a coward to face my own mistakes. I can't change the past. I can't give you back those years you struggled alone. I can't make up for the fear and pain and exhaustion you must have felt raising twins in this city without help from the one person who should have been standing beside you. But I can tell you that I'm different now. I'm in therapy 3 times a week, working on understanding why I made those choices and how to never make them again. I've cut ties with my mother's control over my life. I've spent the last 10 weeks sitting on a playroom floor, watching Zara and Nora slowly learn that I'm safe, that I'm consistent, that I show up. They're remarkable, Olivia. They're smart and funny and kind to each other. Zara is protective of her sister. Nora has this laugh that sounds like bells. They both love building things and knocking them down. They're perfect. And they're perfect because of you, because you raised them with love and patience and strength when you could have chosen a different path. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm not asking you to trust me, because I know I broke that trust beyond repair. I'm just asking for a chance to keep showing up for them. And maybe someday, if I prove myself worthy, for you to believe that people can change. The child support payments are set up through the court. But if you need anything else, anything at all, please tell Sarah Chen. Medical expenses, daycare, clothes, toys, savings accounts for college. I want to support them financially in every way possible. Not because it makes me feel better about what I did, because it's my responsibility. I'll keep coming to the Saturday sessions. I'll keep being patient. I'll keep trying to become the father Zara and Nora deserve. Thank you for raising them so well. Thank you for being strong enough to do it alone when I failed you. Thank you for letting me have even 1 hour a week in their lives. Ryan. He sealed the letter, addressed it, and dropped it in the mailbox before he could second-guess himself. Then he went home and waited with no expectation of a response. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning in February, Ryan arrived at Dr. Torres's office for his scheduled session. Olivia was there, which was unusual. She usually dropped the twins off and left immediately. But today she waited in the lobby, her coat on, her bag over her shoulder, clearly preparing to go. She stopped him before he could enter the playroom. "I got your letter," she said quietly. Ryan's heart hammered. "Okay." "I want to be clear about something," Olivia said, her dark eyes meeting his without flinching. "I don't forgive you. I might never forgive you. What you did was cruel, and it changed my life in ways you'll never fully understand. But," she paused, took a breath, "I've been watching you with them for 10 weeks. Dr. Torres says you're consistent, patient, appropriate. The girls talk about you now. Ryan built a castle. Ryan read us a book. They're starting to like you. They're easy to like," Ryan said, his voice rough with emotion. "So here's what I'm willing to do," Olivia continued. "We keep the current arrangement for another 3 months. If it continues to go well, if Dr. Torres recommends it, we can expand to unsupervised visits, short ones at first, playground trips, ice cream, things where I'm not there, but I know you're capable of keeping them safe." "I would never let anything happen to them," Ryan said urgently. "I know. That's why I'm saying yes." Olivia adjusted her bag, preparing to leave. "But Ryan, understand this. They're my daughters first. Always. If you do anything at all, to hurt them or confuse them or make them feel unwanted, I will cut you out of their lives so fast your head will spin. Court order or not, I will find a way. I understand." "Do you?" She studied his face. "Because you hurt me, and I survived. But if you hurt them, I won't be able to forgive that. Ever." "I won't," Ryan promised. "I swear to you, Olivia, I won't." She nodded once, then turned to leave. Ryan watched her go, feeling like he'd been given a gift he didn't deserve but would fight to keep. He went into the playroom where his daughters waited, where Zara ran to him with a drawing she'd made, where Nora showed him her new shoes with lights in them, where for one precious hour he got to be their father. It was enough. For now, it was enough. The weeks passed into months. Spring arrived again, 1 year since Ryan had seen them in Central Park. The supervised sessions continued successfully. Dr. Torres recommended expanding to unsupervised visitation. The first solo trip was to a playground in Prospect Park, 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon. Ryan met Olivia at her building in Brooklyn. She had packed a diaper bag with meticulous detail, written out emergency contacts, her pediatrician's number, instructions for nap time, snack preferences, everything he might need to know. "They're used to a routine," she said, her voice tight with barely concealed anxiety. "Zara gets cranky if she doesn't have her nap by 2. Nora won't eat anything green unless you tell her it's dinosaur food. They both need to hold hands when crossing the street." "I've got it," Ryan said, taking the bag. "I promise, I've got it." The twins were excited, bouncing in their matching sneakers, wearing identical yellow sundresses that made them look like little dandelions. They'd warmed to Ryan over the months, started calling him Rai instead of Ryan, climbed on him during playroom sessions with the casual physical affection of children who felt safe. But this was different. This was their mother trusting him alone with them for the first time. "Mama come too?" Nora asked, looking between them. "Mama's going to stay home and rest," Olivia said, kneeling to their level. "You're going to play with Ryan. I'll see you in 2 hours. 2 hours is 2 episodes of Bluey and 1 snack time," Zara announced, her father's analytical mind already showing at not quite 2.5. Olivia laughed, surprised, and Ryan saw her walls crack just slightly. "That's right, baby. 2 hours. Then Mama will be right here waiting." Ryan walked to the playground, holding both their hands, hyper-aware of every car, every stranger, every possible danger. They were so small, so fragile, so trusting as they chattered about swings and slides, and could they get ice cream after? He'd never been responsible for anything this important in his entire life. The playground was crowded with weekend families. Ryan pushed them on the swings, helped them climb the jungle gym, caught them at the bottom of the slide. Other parents smiled at him, assuming he was just another dad spending Saturday with his kids. No one knew how precious this was, how hard fought, how aware he was of every passing minute, bringing him closer to the moment he'd have to give them back. Rai, look! Zara called from the top of the climbing structure. "I'm tall." "You're very tall," Ryan called back, his heart in his throat every time she moved near the edge. Nora tugged his hand. "Hungry? Want dinosaur food?" Ryan checked his watch. 1 hour and 15 minutes. He pulled out the snacks Olivia had packed, green grapes and cucumber slices. "Look, Nora, dinosaur food." "No," Nora said firmly. "That's just cucumbers." Ryan laughed despite himself. "You're right, but dinosaurs loved cucumbers. It's their favorite." "Really?" "Absolutely. T-Rexes couldn't get enough of them." Nora considered this seriously, then took a cucumber slice and bit it with dramatic flair. "Raw," she said, making dinosaur arms. "I'm a dinosaur." "Me too." Zara scrambled down from the climbing structure and joined them on the bench. "Can we go see dinosaurs? The big museum, the Natural History Museum?" Ryan asked, and something warm unfurled in his chest. "Would you like that? We could go sometime if your mama says okay. And see the big whale?" And the big whale. They sat together on the bench, eating snacks. These 2 little girls who looked like him, but were entirely themselves. Entire universes of personality and preference and stubborn independence. Ryan felt overwhelmed with love and terror in equal measure. How did people do this? How did they walk around every day carrying this much feeling, this much responsibility, this much fear that something might happen to take it all away? The 2 hours ended too quickly. Ryan walked them home, their hands in his, their chatter endless about everything they'd seen and done. Olivia was waiting on the front steps of her building, and Ryan could see the tension drain from her shoulders when she saw them safe and happy and whole. "We saw a dog," Nora announced immediately. "A big one. And I went really high on the swings," Zara added. "Higher than Nora?" "Did not." "Did too," Olivia laughed, pulling them both into a hug. Then she looked up at Ryan, and something had shifted in her face. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the possibility of it someday. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for keeping them safe, always." Ryan said. He meant it with everything in him. The unsupervised visits expanded. Once a week became twice a week. Playground trips became museum visits, trips to the zoo, afternoons at the aquarium in Coney Island. Ryan learned their favorite foods, their fears, their silly games and nonsense songs. He learned that Zara was cautious and thoughtful, while Nora charged headfirst into everything. He learned that they fought constantly, but would defend each other against any perceived threat. He learned that being a parent wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about showing up consistently, about being present, about loving someone more than you loved yourself. He also learned about Olivia in glimpses and fragments, the way she decorated their apartment on a budget with thrift store finds and DIY projects, the way she worked full-time while managing 2 toddlers, exhausted but determined, the community she'd built around her family, friends and neighbors and church members who helped because they loved her, not because they owed her anything. One Saturday in July, Ryan brought the twins back after an afternoon at a water play area in Brooklyn Bridge Park. They were soaked and happy, wearing the spare clothes he'd learned to keep in his car. Olivia was waiting at her building, but this time with a man beside her. Tall, black, well-dressed, his hand on her lower back in a way that spoke of intimacy. Ryan felt his chest constrict. Of course, Olivia had moved on. She was beautiful, strong, remarkable. Why wouldn't she be dating someone? Rai, this is Marcus, Nora announced. He makes good pancakes. The man smiled and extended his hand. Marcus Coleman, good to finally meet you. The girls talk about you a lot. Ryan shook his hand, trying to read Olivia's face. She looked defensive, her chin raised slightly. Marcus and I have been seeing each other for a few months, she said, and there was a challenge in her voice. He's been wonderful with the girls. That's great, Ryan managed. They deserve good people in their lives. Marcus glanced between them, clearly sensing the tension. I'm going to take these 2 upstairs and get them into dry clothes, he said, taking Zara and Nora's hands. Olivia, you want to talk out here for a minute? When they were alone on the sidewalk, the summer evening warm around them, Olivia turned to Ryan with fire in her eyes. I don't owe you any explanations about my personal life. I know, Ryan said quickly. I'm not trying to interfere. If you're happy, I'm glad. I am happy, she said, but she sounded uncertain. Marcus is kind. He treats me with respect. He loves the girls. He's everything you weren't. I know, Ryan said again, and the words cut like glass going down his throat. Olivia studied him for a long moment. Why are you doing this, Ryan? Really? Is it guilt? Is it because you think you should? Because the girls can sense that. They'll know if you're only here out of obligation. I'm here because I love them, Ryan said, and realized, as he said it, how completely true it was. I'm here because being their father is the most important thing I've ever done in my life. I'm here because I can't imagine not being here anymore. Something flickered across Olivia's face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. You've changed, she said softly. I didn't think it was possible, but you really have changed. I'm trying, Ryan said. Every day I'm trying to be someone they can be proud of. Someone I can trust, Olivia corrected. That too. She was quiet for a moment, looking up at her building, where their daughters were probably causing chaos while Marcus tried to get them into pajamas. I'm not trying to replace you, she said finally. Marcus knows about you. He knows the girls need their father. But Ryan, I'm not sitting around waiting for you to... I don't even know what I'd be waiting for. My life is moving forward, with or without you in it romantically. I understand, Ryan said, even though the thought of Olivia with someone else made his chest ache in a way he had no right to feel. I just want to be in their lives, whatever that looks like. Olivia nodded slowly. Then unexpectedly she reached out and touched his arm briefly. You're doing a good job with them. I want you to know that. They love their time with you. They come home and talk about Rai for hours. You're becoming real to them. Real in a good way. Thank you, Ryan said, his voice rough with emotion. That means everything. She withdrew her hand and turned to go inside. Ryan watched her disappear through the building door, then sat in his car for a long time processing. Olivia was dating someone. She was happy, or trying to be. She was building a life that didn't need him in it as anything more than the twins' father, and that was okay. It had to be okay, because he'd given up the right to want more than that 2 years ago on a February night when he'd chosen duty over love. But God, it hurt. It hurt more than he'd expected. Seeing her with someone else, knowing he'd destroyed something he hadn't appreciated until it was too late. Ryan drove back to Manhattan as the sun set over the city, the skyline painting itself gold and pink against the darkening sky. He thought about calling Dr. Patel, processing this new development. but instead, he found himself driving to his mother's apartment building, something he hadn't done in months. Catherine answered the door in surprise. They'd barely spoken since he'd told her about the twins. She'd sent gifts for their second birthday, expensive things the girls had ignored in favor of cardboard boxes. She'd tried to invite herself to visitation sessions. Ryan had declined firmly every time. "You lost the right to be their grandmother when you made sure they wouldn't have a father," he'd told her. "Ryan," she said now, clearly trying to gauge his mood, "this is unexpected. Come in." "No," Ryan said, staying in the hallway. "I'm not staying. I just came to tell you something. I forgive you." Catherine blinked. "What?" "For manipulating me, for interfering with my life, for making me think duty and family legacy were more important than love. I forgive you because holding on to anger isn't helping anyone." He paused, meeting her eyes. "But I also want you to know that you'll never be part of my daughter's lives until you can apologize to Olivia for what you did. Not to me, to her. She's the one you hurt most." "Apologize to that girl?" Catherine's face hardened. "She trapped you with those children." "No, Mother. She tried to tell me I was going to be a father, and you made sure she couldn't. Those are your grandchildren, Zara and Nora. They're remarkable and beautiful, and I love them more than anything in this world, and you'll never know them unless you make this right." He turned and left before she could respond, walking out of the building into the summer night. He felt lighter somehow, like he'd put down a weight he'd been carrying for years. He couldn't fix the past. He couldn't erase his mistakes. But he could keep moving forward, keep being present, keep proving through actions that he was different than the man he'd been. Fall arrived, and with it, Halloween. Ryan had been invited to go trick-or-treating with Olivia, Marcus, and the twins. It was the first time they'd all be together socially, and Ryan was nervous in a way he hadn't been since the first supervised visitation. He bought the twins matching bumblebee costumes, then worried he'd overstepped, that Olivia had already planned costumes, that he was trying too hard. But when he arrived at her apartment on Halloween evening, Zara and Nora ran to the door in their bumblebee costumes, squealing with delight. "We match! We match!" Nora jumped up and down, her wings bobbing. Olivia appeared behind them dressed as a beekeeper. She looked at Ryan's face, and something softened in her expression. "Thank you for the costumes. They're perfect." Marcus emerged in a simple black shirt and jeans, clearly having opted out of the costume portion of the evening. "Ready to hit the streets?" he asked cheerfully. "I've got the candy route mapped out for maximum efficiency." They walked through Prospect Heights as the sun set, the twins running from house to house with their small pumpkin buckets, shouting "trick or treat" with joy. Ryan carried Zara when she got tired, her bumblebee wings tickling his neck, her head heavy on his shoulder. Marcus carried Nora when she complained her feet hurt. Olivia walked between them, laughing at the twins' commentary on every decoration, every costume they saw. "Look, Mama, a scary ghost. That's not scary, that's silly." "Is too scary, is not." They ended up back at Olivia's apartment as the twins crashed hard from sugar and excitement. Ryan helped carry them upstairs, helped get them out of costumes and into pajamas despite their protests that they weren't tired at all. Within 10 minutes of hitting their beds, both girls were asleep, their candy buckets carefully sorted and placed on their shared dresser. Olivia, Marcus, and Ryan stood in the tiny kitchen, the awkwardness suddenly palpable. "Thank you for including me tonight," Ryan said, breaking the silence. "It meant a lot." "They wanted you here," Olivia said, pouring 3 glasses of wine without asking. "And honestly, it was nice, having extra hands, having them see us all getting along. To co-parenting," Marcus said, raising his glass. They clinked glasses, and Ryan studied Marcus over the rim of his wine. The man was genuinely kind, attentive to Olivia without being possessive, good with the twins without trying to replace Ryan. He was exactly what Olivia deserved. Ryan tried to feel grateful for that instead of jealous. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said suddenly, looking at Ryan. "And you don't have to answer if you don't want to." "Okay," Ryan said warily. "Are you still in love with her?" The question landed like a bomb in the small kitchen. Olivia's eyes went wide, her hand tightening around her wine glass. Ryan could lie. He should lie. But he'd promised himself he was done lying, done hiding from hard truths. "Yes," he said simply. "I never stopped, but that doesn't matter. I destroyed that relationship beyond repair. I'm just trying to be a good father now. That's all I have a right to expect." Marcus nodded slowly, like Ryan had confirmed something he'd suspected. Olivia looked stricken, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Ryan, you don't have to say anything," Ryan interrupted gently. "I'm not telling you this to make things complicated. I'm just being honest. You asked me once why I was doing this, if it was guilt or obligation. It's not. It's love. For them, yes, but also for you. For the woman who was strong enough to do this alone, who raised 2 incredible kids, who built a life out of nothing because I failed you. He set down his wine glass. But you're happy now. You're moving forward. That's what matters. I'll support that however I can. He left before either of them could respond, walking out into the October night, leaving behind the warm apartment and the complicated feelings and the woman he'd loved and lost through his own stupid choices. The city was alive with Halloween revelers, college kids in costumes, families heading home from trick-or-treating. Ryan walked aimlessly through Brooklyn, eventually finding himself on the Brooklyn Bridge walkway, looking back at the glittering Manhattan skyline where he'd spent most of his life. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah Chen, his lawyer. Judge Moreno is retiring. Her last order before leaving the bench is making the custody arrangement permanent. Congratulations. You officially have joint custody of your daughters. This could have only happened if Olivia voluntarily agreed, since the judge could have ruled way differently. Ryan stood on the bridge, the East River churning dark below, the city lights reflected in its surface like fallen stars. Joint custody, legal recognition of his role in his daughters' lives, and Olivia had agreed to it. Despite everything, she'd chosen to trust him with that. He called her without thinking. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice uncertain. Ryan, is everything okay? Sarah just texted me about the custody order. You agreed to make it permanent, to joint custody. Why? Olivia was quiet for a moment. Because you've earned it. Because the girls love you. Because I've been watching you for almost a year now and you show up consistently. You put them first. You've become someone I can trust with the most precious things in my world. She paused. And because what you said tonight about still being in love with me, that wasn't fair. I know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. No, let me finish. Her voice was stronger now. It wasn't fair because I've been trying so hard not to feel anything for you except co-parent tolerance. I've been trying to move on with Marcus because he's safe and kind and he won't destroy me the way you did. But Ryan, I see you with our daughters, and I see the man you could have been 2 years ago if you'd been brave enough. I see you now, and it's so hard not to wonder what if. Ryan's heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm confused. I'm saying you hurt me worse than anyone ever has. But I'm also saying you've spent a year proving you've changed. I'm saying I don't know what to do with these feelings. And I wish you hadn't told me you still loved me because now I can't stop thinking about it. I won't push, Ryan said immediately. I won't interfere with your relationship. I broke up with Marcus. Olivia interrupted. Tonight, after you left, I told him it wasn't fair to keep dating him when my heart wasn't fully in it. When I kept comparing him to you, that wasn't fair to him. Ryan gripped the phone tighter, barely breathing. Olivia, I'm not saying we're getting back together, she said quickly. I'm not saying I forgive you or trust you or that we can just pick up where we left off. But I'm saying maybe we could try, slowly, carefully, starting over as different people than we were. I'll do anything, Ryan said, his voice shaking. Anything you need, as slow as you want. I'll prove to you every single day that I'm worth the risk. You already have been, Olivia said softly. That's why I'm willing to try. They talked for another hour, standing in their separate parts of the city, connected by phone lines and tentative hope. They talked about boundaries and expectations and fears, about taking things slowly, about putting the twins first, about the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, broken things could be repaired if you were willing to do the work. When Ryan finally hung up and walked back toward Manhattan, the city felt different, full of possibility instead of regret, full of second chances he'd never thought he'd get. The Brooklyn Bridge stretched out before him, connecting 2 boroughs, 2 lives, 2 people who'd lost each other and found their way back through the love of 2 little girls who deserved better than the mess their parents had made. Ryan thought about Zara and Nora, asleep in their matching beds, their bumblebee wings folded carefully on a chair, their faces peaceful and innocent. They'd brought him here. Their existence had cracked him open, forced him to become someone better, given him a reason to fight through his own weakness and his mother's control and his fear of disappointing anyone. They'd saved him without even knowing they needed to. And maybe, if he kept showing up, kept being present, kept choosing love over fear every single day, they'd give him something even more precious, a chance to be part of a family, not the dynasty his mother had wanted, something smaller, messier, infinitely more real, something built on forgiveness and growth, and the stubborn belief that people could change if they wanted it badly enough. Ryan took out his phone and looked at his wallpaper. A photo from Halloween night that Olivia had sent him. The four of them, the twins front and center in their bumblebee costumes, Olivia in her beekeeper outfit, and Ryan kneeling behind them, his arms around both girls, his smile genuine and unguarded. Marcus had taken the photo right before Ryan's confession, right before everything shifted again. But looking at it now, Ryan could see what he'd missed in the moment. The way Olivia was looking at him in the photo, not at the camera, the softness in her expression, the possibility written in her eyes that maybe, just maybe, this broken thing between them could heal. It would take time. It would take work. It would take proving himself over and over until Olivia could believe in him again. But Ryan had learned patience this year. He'd learned that the best things, the most important things, couldn't be rushed or bought or demanded. They had to be earned through consistent action, through showing up even when it was hard, through loving someone enough to respect their boundaries while hoping they'd eventually let you closer. He would show up for his daughters, for Olivia, for the family they might someday become. He would show up every single day for the rest of his life, if that's what it took. Because that's what real love looked like. Not grand gestures or perfect words, just presence, just commitment, just the quiet, steadfast decision to keep choosing someone over and over until maybe they choose you back. Ryan walked off the Brooklyn Bridge into Manhattan, the city that had watched him make his worst mistakes and his first steps toward redemption. Tomorrow, he'd see his daughters again. Tomorrow, he'd keep proving himself. Tomorrow, and every tomorrow after that, he'd be the father and the man they deserved. That was enough. For now, that was more than enough. It was everything.